In the shadowed valleys of Eldridge Hollow, nestled deep in the Appalachian folds where ancient pines clawed at the sky like skeletal fingers, Detective Mara Voss arrived under a moonless sky that pressed down like a velvet curtain. The town was a forgotten relic, its winding streets lined with crumbling Victorian homes that seemed to lean in, whispering secrets to the relentless wind. Fog clung to everything, a perpetual shroud that muffled sounds and blurred edges, making the world feel half-real. Mara had been summoned from the bustling city precincts for what the locals stubbornly dismissed as mere accidents, but her instincts screamed otherwise. 3 bodies in as many months, each discovered at the break of dawn with eyes wide open, frozen in an expression of abject terror. No visible wounds, no signs of struggle, just hearts that had stopped cold, as if fear itself had gripped them and squeezed the life away. Mara's worn boots crunched on the frost-kissed gravel as she pulled her battered sedan up to the sheriff's office, a squat, unassuming building flickering under a dying neon sign that buzzed like an angry hornet. Sheriff Harlan Tate greeted her at the door with a curt nod, his face etched like weathered bark from years under the hollow's unforgiving sun. He was a tall man, broad-shouldered, with eyes that held the dull gleam of resignation. "You're wasting your time here, Detective Voss," he drawled, his voice carrying the slow cadence of mountains. "Folks in Eldridge die of old age, bad luck, or the bottle. Nothing more sinister than that." But Mara knew better. She'd pored over preliminary reports on the long drive in, her mind already weaving threads. Victim 1, Elias Crow, the reclusive town historian, found slumped in his dusty library amid towering stacks of yellowed tomes, clutching a faded sepia photograph in his gnarled fist. Victim 2, Lila Thorne, the beloved schoolteacher with her silver-streaked hair and kind eyes, sprawled across her cluttered classroom desk, chalk dust still settling in the air like ghostly confetti. Victim 3, Jonas Black, the gruff mill owner whose empire of rusting machinery dominated the town's edge, discovered in his cavernous warehouse, his ledger splayed open to a page marred with frantic, illegible scribbles. All 3 connected by a tenuous thread. The ancient legend of the Whisperer, a spectral entity said to haunt the Hollow, driving the guilty to madness by murmuring revelations of their deepest sins into their ears until their hearts gave out. That first night in Eldridge, sleep eluded Mara like an elusive shadow. Her motel room, a dingy affair on the outskirts with peeling wallpaper and a pervasive reek of mildew and stale smoke, offered no respite. The walls seemed to pulse with the distant rumble of thunder rolling through the hills, and the single bulb overhead cast long, wavering shadows that danced mockingly. She spread the case files across the sagging bed, sipping bitter coffee that grew cold too quickly, her eyes scanning for patterns. Elias's photograph depicted a group of stern-faced townsfolk from 1952, their smiles forced and brittle, as if posing for a funeral. Lila's desk held a child's crayon drawing of a looming shadowy figure with elongated limbs, labeled The Bad Whisper. Jonas's ledger entry spoke of debts to the past, scrawled in crimson ink, underlined with trembling urgency. Coincidences? Or deliberate clues left by a killer with a flair for the dramatic? Dawn shattered the night with a shrill ring from her phone. Sheriff Tate's gravelly voice on the line. Another one, detective, old widow Agnes Greaves. Up in her attic. You best come quick. Mara's pulse quickened as she raced to the fog-shrouded roads, her tires kicking up mist like spectral dust. The widow's house was a Gothic monstrosity perched on a hill, its turreted roof sagging under the weight of decades, vines choking the faded facade like nature's noose. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of mothballs and decay. Up the creaking, narrow stairs to the attic, where dust motes swirled in the slanted light from a grimy window, she found Agnes slumped in an antique rocking chair, her frail body rigid, eyes bulging in frozen horror. In her rigor-stiff hand, a tarnished locket gleamed. Mara pried it open gently. Inside, a lock of faded hair and a crumpled note. The Whisperer knows all. It sees your soul. The autopsies, conducted in the county morgue an hour's drive away, revealed nothing conclusive. No toxins, no internal trauma, just skyrocketing cortisol levels that suggested death by sheer, overwhelming terror. Mara dove into interviews with fervor, her notebook filling with frantic notes. Elias's daughter, a mousy woman named Clara with trembling hands, spoke in hushed tones of her father muttering about buried truths that claw their way out. Lila's grieving husband, a retired miner with calloused palms, recalled her jolting awake from nightmares, sweat-soaked and whispering, "It's coming for us all," the voice in the dark. Jonas's mill workers, huddled in the dim break room amid the clank of idle machines, mentioned his growing paranoia, barricading doors against unseen intruders, ranting about echoes in the wind. As days blurred into sleepless nights, Mara felt the town's collective gaze boring into her back like icy needles. Whispers trailed her in the greasy spoon diner, where locals nursed endless cups of coffee, their eyes averting when she entered. Paranoia seeped in. Was that a shadow flitting past her window at midnight? A murmur in the static of her radio? She delved deeper into Eldridge Hollow's sordid history, spending hours in the dim town archive, sneezing from dust as she unearthed brittle documents. In 1952, a catastrophic mining collapse had entombed 12 men alive in the bowels of the earth. The official narrative, a tragic accident due to unstable shafts. But Elias's hidden journals, tucked away in a locked drawer she'd pried open, hinted at something far darker: sabotage. Dynamite deliberately misplaced by the mill owner of the era, none other than Harlan Tate's grandfather, prioritizing greed over safety to cut costs. The victims' families, bound by blood and bribes, had orchestrated a cover-up, swearing eternal secrecy under threat of ruin. The Whisperer, according to faded folklore tomes, was a vengeful spirit of the miners' foreman, cursed to wander the hollow, exposing lies until justice was served in the cruelest way. Emboldened, Mara confronted Tate in his cluttered office, the air heavy with cigar smoke. "Your family was at the heart of it, Sheriff. The 1952 collapse wasn't an accident. It was murder for profit. These deaths? They're targeting the guilty or their descendants. Vengeance from a grave." Tate's laughter was bitter, echoing off the wood panel walls. "Ghost stories to scare children, Detective. You're cracking under the hollow spell, just like the rest. Go chase shadows if it pleases you." But that very night, alone in her motel room with rain lashing the windows like accusing fingers, Mara heard it for the first time. A faint murmur, insidious and low, like wind slithering through cracks in the walls, forming fragmented words. "You know nothing of the depths." She bolted upright, heart hammering, skin prickling with goose flesh. Hallucination from exhaustion? A trick of the storm? She shook it off, splashing cold water on her face. But doubt wormed its way into her mind, festering. The killings escalated with terrifying speed, as if the hollow itself had awakened. Victim 5, Mayor Harlan Reed, a portly man with a perpetual politician's grin. Found in his opulent office, a hasty confession scrawled in his own blood on the wall. I hid the evidence, buried the screams. Mara traced the threads meticulously. The 1952 cover-up involved not just sabotage, but payoffs to silence widows, falsified reports filed under Tate's grandfather's seal, and a pact sealed in the mine's shadow. The descendants were reaping the whirlwind now, their sins inherited like a poisoned legacy. Paranoia gripped Eldridge Hollow like a vice. Doors bolted at dusk. Iron crosses nailed to windows. Salt lines poured across thresholds in feudal wards. Whispers of curses spread in the general store, old-timers swapping tales of past hauntings. Disappearances in the fog, voices driving men to leap from cliffs. Mara, feeling the isolation keenly, set a desperate trap, staking out the overgrown entrance to the old mine where the legend was born. Midnight descended, the fog thick as curdled milk, swallowing sounds. She crouched behind jagged rocks, breath shallow, gun heavy in her hand. Then, footsteps, not hers, crunching softly through the underbrush. "Show yourself," she barked, voice cutting through the mist, her flashlight beam piercing the gloom. The figure emerged slowly, cloaked in shadow, resolving into Sheriff Tate, his face twisted with mania, eyes glittering wildly under the beam. "It's not a ghost, Mara. It's me. All me," he confessed in a torrent, words tumbling out like a dam breaking. Poison darts tipped with a rare fear toxin distilled from hallucinogenic herbs that grew only in the hollow's deepest ravines. Administered in the dead of night, it induced paralyzing terror, simulating the Whisperer's curse, leading to cardiac arrest. His motive? Bitter revenge for his grandfather's downfall after the collapse, ruined by guilt and whispers of scandal that drove him to suicide. They deserved it, Tate rasped, his voice cracking. The heirs, profiting from blood. I made them hear the truth, feel the fear those miners felt. Mara's cuffs clicked shut around his wrists, cold steel against his fevered skin. But as she led him back to the fog toward her car, a sudden chill wind howled up from a mine's yawning mouth. Tate froze mid-step, his body going rigid. No, it's here. The real one, he whispered, terror etching his features. His eyes bulged, body convulsing in silent agony. He crumpled to the ground, dead before he hit the dirt. Just like the others. No dart wound in sight. The subsequent autopsy mirrored the rest. No detectable toxin, just terror-fueled shutdown. Mara stood alone at the mine's threshold, the fog coiling around her like tendrils, whispers echoing faintly in the depths. The truth is deeper than bones. Was Tate the sole killer, his confession a final ploy, or a pawn manipulated by something unearthly? Did the whisper truly exist, a spectral force using human hands to enact its vengeance? Or was it mass hysteria, the weight of buried guilt festering like a cancer, manifesting as collective delusion and death? Perhaps a hidden accomplice lurked in the shadows, the toxin undetectable by modern means. Or maybe the hollow's toxic soil, laced with remnants from the old mine, induced paranoia in all who lingered too long. The fog swallowed her questions whole, retreating as dawn bled into sky. Eldridge Hollow kept its silence, the wind carrying only murmurs of possibilities, leaving the truth to twist in imagination like roots in dark earth. What really happened? A vengeful spirit born of tragedy? A clever poisoner who evaded detection? Perhaps even Mara herself unknowingly exposed? The psychological toll of secrets, amplified by isolation? Or something older, primal, woven into the land itself? The Hollow knows, but it whispers only to those who listen too closely.